Welcome back to the Modern Craftsman podcast. This week, it's just Nick and myself, and we are going to dive into some of the challenges and insights that come with building and growing a successful business in the construction world. We're tackling some questions from our listeners and our Modern Craftsman community. For example, is it true that you can't expect to make much money in the first few years of business? And if so, why? We also discuss the impact of branded apparel on your company's image and whether rising wages are key to attracting the next generation in a time of increasing build costs. Plus, we are going to open up about some of our biggest mistakes we've made in business and how they've shaped us for the better. We'll talk about where the best leads come from, what makes a lead truly valuable, and the strategies we use to remain top of mind with past clients for repeat business. So whether you are in your early days as a contractor or a seasoned builder looking to elevate your game, join us today as we dive deeply into the wins, the lessons, and the challenges of crafting a standout business in the trades. As always, we appreciate all of your support, not only today, but the past few years as well. And if you have any questions, reach out to us directly. Enjoy the podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Andersen Windows. Andersen is dedicated to designing and manufacturing products that are strong, reliable, and ready to perform. And they validate that by testing, and testing again until they know their windows and doors perform to their high standards. They take the time to validate the performance of their materials as well as performance of the fully assembled products. They test their products to failure, not just to pass, meaning they test beyond the threshold required by the industry because they want to know that they're supplying a product that will perform in the most extreme conditions. If products withstand Andersen's best-in-class tests, you can be confident that they will withstand the test of time for your clients. Visit andersenwindows.com for more information. This podcast is also brought to you by Buildertrend. How's work-life balance going? If you're feeling like your business is running you instead of the other way around, it's time to check out Buildertrend, the premier platform for premier builders. Their cutting-edge software and business services are designed to help you improve profitability, plan for future growth, and, most importantly, get more time back in your day. You know, the time to work on your business, not in it. Whether you want to streamline operations or just spend a little more time off the job site without worrying, Buildertrend has your back. Their tools help you stay competitive and take your business from surviving to thriving. Ready to work smarter, not harder? Head to buildertrend.com/mcdemo and schedule your free demo today. Your future self will thank you. This podcast is also brought to you by Velux. If you've been thinking about adding skylights to one of your projects, trust Velux to provide you with industry-leading quality and service. Velux has spent 80 years of crafting innovative and reliable skylights that are trusted around the world. From the rainy Pacific Northwest to the hot and sunny South, skylights will elevate any home and wow clients. You can trust that Velux skylights will bring natural light and fresh air to any space, making you and your project look good. Visit veluxusa.com/remodeler to discover which Velux product can transform your next project. And Velux is spelled VELUX. This podcast is brought to you by NAHB. If you don't know, that is the National Association of Home Builders. And as builders, we know where it all begins, the NAHB International Builder Show. Join us February 25th through the 27th in Las Vegas for the biggest event for residential construction professionals. Here's something special for our listeners. NAHB is offering 50 free Expo passes, one per registration. It's first come, first serve, so do not wait. Head over to buildersshow.com modern craftsman to grab your free pass and join us at the Builder Show. Do not sleep on that. Get your free pass today. The link to that will be in the show notes. There's 50 free passes, first come, first serve. Do not sleep on that. Go to the show. It's an amazing show. It's overwhelmingly huge. There's so much to see. It's so exciting. Nick will be there. I will be there. You do not want to miss this one. So we put out a questionnaire with just some questions that all of you listeners had and supporters had from us. So let's just dig right into them. From jmncarpentry.cle. When starting a business, it's said that you aren't going to make money your first few years. Do you think that's because you are constantly reinvesting in the business or because you are lowering your costs to get work? I think it's different.
Isn't that the same thing?
Probably. I don't know. It depends on what you're looking at as far as reinvesting. Are you reinvesting in yourself or reinvesting actually in the business? I think that a lot of it is just numbers and understanding and not understanding your numbers, inefficiencies, mistakes that you make. I think that when you first start a business, you're investing in your education. And it's going to cost you a lot of money, and you're going to have to pay that ignorance tax, so to speak. And I think a lot of it is just not understanding how to make money, how to capture your costs, how to sell the right work, and just being overly competitive.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many parts to that. Underselling your work to get the work. That is, I think, the same as over investing in a project. And I've talked about that numerous times where, we take all the profits and dump them back into the project, make it cooler, sell that project as a more expensive project than the client wanted to spend, and then go chase the next one. That's the next rung up on the ladder. And, I think that is the reality of what a lot of us do. And every time I talk about it, I think about the fact that I still do that and I don't know why. Um, I would say more recently, our projects individually have done a lot better from a profitability standpoint. And a lot of that has to do with me removing myself kind of from that side of it and like constantly trying to overinvest, and my team keeping the project on track and keeping the client, on track in terms of the financials. But Tyler's right. I think, one of the first things that happens in a new business is when you're doing all the work yourself, say you're going to pocket $1,000 for the week, you work no matter how, like, doesn't matter how many hours you work. And on Friday, you put $1,000 in your pocket, you've done what you said you were going to do. Where if you hire someone and now you're paying them hourly and you have slated $1,000, but then they have to work overtime, next thing you know, you're dishing out $1,500. And, and that's, I think, the first example of something that, until you go through that, or until you have that employee, or until you spend that money, it's one of those things where you can easily miss. And have a misunderstanding of how profitable a project could potentially be.
So I didn't record it yet because I just got in from Cleveland, but my midweek is going to be on confidence in your business, and combating like the perception of being too expensive. And I think that there's a huge aspect of this where it's just confidence in yourself, in your numbers, in your business, and being able to advocate for yourself and for your numbers. And when you first start in business, it's like, I don't know what I should be charging. I don't know what's too much. I don't know what I'm worth. And if you're not confident in your numbers and you're not confident in your pricing and the work that you're selling, there's no way that you're going to sell to clients. And you can think of that with any scenario in your life. But if somebody's trying to sell you a product or a system and they are not absolutely confident in what they're selling, there's no way you're going to invest in that. So I think that a big aspect of that is just building and establishing your confidence with your business and your numbers, And as you progress, you're going to learn where you need to be. At the end of the day, you need to have more sales. You need to make more money than you're spending. And you can't cheat the hours and you can't cheat the costs because you're the owner of the business and you can do it for free. So I think that if you actually understand how much time you invest in every project and you understand what you budgeted and then you track those costs on a daily basis, you will probably realize pretty quickly in business that you are not profitable and you're not running a sustainable business. And then it's up to you to start figuring out how you can become profitable, how you can capture your hours, and what expenses and what costs and price point your market's going to bear. There's a million reasons why you're not profitable, and you're probably not running a sustainable business when you first start. But without doing it and without learning and without gaining that knowledge, you're somewhat ignorant to it.
Yeah, just one last point on that. We've been in business for 10, 11 years now. And, recently we've been digging into our financials really specifically, just look at the good years and the bad years and understand what those deltas are and why are we having these swings? Because one of the things I remember early on challenging my team, I was like, all of these projects are super profitable. Like we're hitting our numbers on all of these jobs, but the reality is sure, on our GP we were making a good percentage, but we were spending more than what our gross profit was on our overhead because we were trying to scale. And it's, I know it sounds pretty elementary or it sounds kind of silly where it's like, well, of course that's the case. But I think a lot of times, especially early on, you can get trapped in this understanding that a job is profitable, then my business is profitable. And it's completely separate where a job can be super profitable. But if you're spending all of those profits on running the actual business, i.e. the overhead, then you don't have a profitable business. And I've learned that, the hard way more than once. We've had great years, good years, bad years, and that's up, it's down, and it's this constant reevaluation of what's working, what's not. And, and frankly, I've been in positions where I've lost sight or track of what is going on to the point where, needed to do a deeper investigation into like, hey, what's going on here? It's like, it seems like we got our shit together, but something is bleeding, and where's that bleeding coming from? Yeah. And it's, as Tyler said, it's, making sure that you're on top of that and having a good understanding of it is far more important than you might think in the beginning. Because I feel like in the beginning, it's like all this money comes in, you feel great. And then something whacks you over the top of the head, whether it's taxes or some sort of insurance audit or whatever. And that's that first sight into like, wait a second, maybe this isn't going as good as I thought. And that can compound pretty quickly over the course of a couple of years.
Years ago, I spent every free moment after work, after dinner, and even the weekends chasing leads, pricing jobs for free, and giving away design advice to clients who never intended to pay me a dime. All my idle time went to potential clients instead of my family, and I wasn't compensated for any of it. Today, my life's much different. I now capture all my time and my billable hours from pre-construction through project closeout. If you're tired of competitively bidding projects, bleeding time, and losing money, check out our pre-construction course on the website, moderncraftsman.co. Hit the course page and transform your life today. If you don't make back the cost of the course with your first pre-construction contract, we'll refund you in full. This is a no-brainer investment that will transform your business and your life. If you have any questions, reach out to me directly, Tyler at trghomeconcepts.com. All right, so next question. I'm going to skip one. I don't know what you're following along to, but I'm skipping one and putting it till later. But Logan Fogg, his first question, this is a simple one. Branded apparel for a company. Does it help scale and emphasize professionalism? I 100%
Yeah.
firm believer in looking professional, dressing the part, having integrity in your appearance, in your trucks. It at the end of the day doesn't define who you are, and it does not mean that you do great work, you do shitty work. It really doesn't. But I think having integrity for yourself, caring about what your business looks like, the branding of your business, having everyone have a uniform and looking professional, to me, is really, really important and a super easy way to differentiate yourself from a lot of people.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that's obvious. My point, everything gets branded. Slash has done all our branding. They did the Modern Craftsman branding. He's on retainer with us, across all brands to make sure that there is consistency behind it. But apparel, I think, is huge. We all of my team wears branded apparel, especially when they're on a job site, and when they're not, and I show up, they know that they're like. Recently, I had one kid. He was like, I haven't done laundry. I don't have any clean shirts, and I was like, with all due respect, I don't care.
Yeah.
That's not that's not my problem. Wear a dirty shirt or do your laundry. But the rule is you wear a branded shirt like that. We look professional, and I forget if it was I think it was in the Dichotomy of Leadership, Jocko's book, but he talked about an example of when they were all Navy SEALs. They weren't required to be in uniform, but he instilled that everyone stays in a uniform, and went on to explain the fact that basically, like, when they challenge him, like, Jocko, why does everyone have to wear a uniform? This is stupid. We're out there, we're kicking ass, like, we're the best. We don't need, like, why do we need to look the same? And he made a stormtrooper reference where it's like, yeah, but if we all show up and we look like a bunch of stormtroopers, isn't that, wouldn't that be badass? And everyone's like, oh yeah, that does kind of, sound badass. And I remember shortly after reading that book, we were on a job site and I was touring a group of architects through one of our projects, and my team came out and we were all branded, all had the same jacket on. And it was, everyone in their group made a comment about it, like, wow, like, you guys are all wearing the same thing, and like, and basically then chattering amongst themselves, like, we got to do this. Like, there is this sense of professionalism. And a quick shout out, I mean, Harnish does all our stuff. They do the Modern Craftsman shirts, they do NS and Materia Motif and so on and so forth. But Harnish has that H label, and they make it super simple. So if you guys are interested in getting t-shirts, I would recommend. The shirts are awesome. They help you with the design, get them printed, shipped real quick. So Harnish Workwear, not sponsored. That's just a shout out for a good company doing a good thing for our industry.
All right. Next question from the Island Builder. That sounds nice. Wonder what island it is. Do employee wages need to rise to entice the youth? How does this play out when build costs rise as well? Absolutely. And I think that that's one of the biggest struggles that we've faced is you have to pay people more money. There's just no way, no matter what way you position yourself or we want to promote the trades, if we do not offer competitive wages, if we don't offer benefits, if we don't offer a lifestyle, or means that other industries offer young men and women, there's no reason for them to come into the trades. We can pitch it as, hey, like, blue collar, this is something that you can make something tangible, you can build a home, you can actually stand back and appreciate your work. But at the end of the day, I feel that a lot of people make decisions on which direction to go, because of financial compensation. And I think that would be huge to be able to offer young men and women a competitive wage to join this industry. The biggest struggle, is that we have not done a good job of that over the years, and we have not. It's a very competitive industry. It is a very price-driven industry, and I don't feel, as a whole, our industry has done a good job of marketing contractors and builders as people who can provide value aside from price. So I think that that's where our back is up against the wall, where people just aren't willing to pay more money for work because they think that, you can always just find somebody to do the same thing for less. So I think that that's the biggest struggle that we face as an industry, is attracting people and then being able to compensate them properly because of the cap on what clients and customers are willing to pay for our services.
Yeah, let's add to that because I agree. Wages need to continue to rise. I think that the cost of building is skewed because so many people are wildly underpaid, specifically, owner operator trades and minorities and things like that. I think there's a huge issue with underpaying trades and efforts to produce a more competitive product for the market. And so, yes, like Tyler's right. What I will add to that is that doesn't necessarily mean that the cost of construction needs to go up. And the reason I think that is there's so many archaic processes that we take to build a home, and I think that by increasing the cost of construction, it will force us, or it should force us, to look at how we create more efficiencies, whether that's with tech, whether that's with AI, whether that's with automation, offsite building, whatever it is. We need to consider the fact that cost of labor will continue to go up. We're also, becoming more and more scarce in terms of the actual labor, and we need to support and encourage innovation around tech and how we can simplify and automate and streamline the process. There's so many things that are that in that so many things in residential construction that are just wildly inefficient. And, framing is a great example of it. And someone explained it to me one day, is like, you're literally having raw material show up on a job site, and you're taking that raw material and you're fabricating it in the worst possible conditions. It's hot, it's raining, it's snowing, and then not only that, but you're sending raw material, and then someone's grabbing it, and they're not thinking about how to best utilize that one piece of raw material. They're saying, I need that piece of raw material for this particular task, not this task and task number 43, but only this task right here. And when we move that into a manufacturing facility, now you're looking at material completely differently. You're looking at, all right, well, I'm looking at the whole house and I have 3,000 pieces, and this particular material I can cut up for piece 1, piece 18, and piece 43. And stage it accordingly. And I can also manufacture it in an environment that is controlled and safer, and doesn't require a worker to bend over or climb up to a height that is dangerous. So that's a kind of an easy example, but I think that there's so much of that could be implemented into residential construction to consider how to become more efficient, because we continue to move further and further away from being an efficient industry.
It's difficult to, with, like, I look back to, post-war housing, and essentially they were creating economies of scale where you're able to duplicate and replicate what you're doing. And I don't see a lot of that other than housing developments now. But when I look at remodeling and I look at custom home builders, it is really different. It is really difficult to create scalability there because everything is one off, everything is done for the first time, and you can't really create those economies of scale. So I think that there is opportunity moving forward to create architecturally interesting home styles, but create designs that are able to be duplicated and replicated to create scalability there. Because without that, the cost of building something custom and unique for the first time would be the same as every time that one of us needs a car, we can't go to Ford, we can't go to Chevrolet and buy a car that was built on an assembly line. We need to hire somebody to build us a one-off car. And I think that we should be able to serve our industry in a way where not every single thing has to be one-off. Not every single thing has to be completely built from the ground up with unique processes, with unique contractors. There has to be a way to serve the masses and create more affordability, especially with what's happened with the housing market and as far as inventory and interest rates. It's making it very difficult for not only home buyers but contractors. Right? People buy a house, they're paying over appraisal. They're using all of their savings, and then they're getting an interest rate that is putting them in the hole every month. And it's like, how are they going to afford to work on this house, to renovate this house, to maintain this house? So something definitely needs to change there. And I think finding ways to create that scalability, like Nick was saying, might be an opportunity for us. All right, let's see what's next. From Scene Hamill. I wonder if this person's name is Sean and that was already taken, so they just did Scene. Maybe. What's the biggest mistake you've made in business that you're better for now? Go ahead, Nick.
Oh my God.
I'm trying to think.
The biggest, not the one that just falls out of my head. The biggest mistake I've made in business that I'm better for now.
I mean, for me, it's more of a general statement, where I approached my business very similar to what we were just speaking about at the beginning of this podcast, where I can be more competitive by doing it myself. So I didn't charge for a lot of my time, and I was only getting paid for when I was swinging a hammer and when my tool belt was on. So the biggest mistake that I made was getting into the habit of doing that, and establishing my business built on those principles, where it's like, I'm going to do everything myself and it's going to make me more competitive. And that ended up just creating a really unsustainable business model, because I was not getting paid for all of my hours on the project as far as swinging a hammer by underbidding and making mistakes. But then I also wasn't getting paid for meeting with clients, material pickup, invoicing. So when I adopted the mindset of, hey, what if I had to pay somebody to do this? Would they do it for free? And I started building and establishing my cost, and charging clients for those costs, where it's like, hey, if I had an employee and I had to send him to Home Depot to pick stuff up at 7 a.m. before work, would he charge me for it? Would she get paid for it? Absolutely. That cost would be transferred to my client instead of me, but I was doing all of that for free. So when I adopted that mindset and realized how much money I was leaving on the table, and how I needed to find a different market, and find a different business model and a different clientele base to be able to actually capture those costs. That was a huge mistake in my business that I made for years and years and years, that I just became ignorant to and thought was the way that it always had to be. And when I made that change, it definitely impacted not only my business, but my life.
Yeah, I think my biggest mistake, it would be very similar to that, but I think that more importantly is that I would chase projects for the love of the project or the potential product that would come out of it. And I would oftentimes ignore the red flags of a client, or the red flags of a project, because it'll be cool. It'll be a great portfolio piece. We'll power through it and we'll take a bunch of photos, and it'll catapult us into the next stratosphere. And I say that knowing that I still do that.
Yeah.
And I think that I've become better about getting my team buy-in before I unravel into a project like that. Yesterday I was super excited about this potential project, and I put it up on the screen, and my team's looking at it, and they're like, "What's the budget?" And I'm like, "I don't really know yet." They're like, "Nick, this project's not going to work. We are going to be too expensive. Regardless of what his budget is, that's not going to pencil for him, and we know that." And pre that process, I would have absolutely spent a week or 2 weeks trying to price it, trying to convince the client to do it, making concessions because I wanted to have that under my belt. When the reality is my time is better served spending those 100 hours going to find a client that wants us to do a project and pay us for it. Hey guys, we're going to take a quick break from the podcast and remind you to head over to moderncraftsman.co. You can find out more information about us. You can download some freebies. We got a labor burden calculator as well as our pre-construction agreement up there. But most importantly is hit that subscribe button, sign up for our newsletter. This is where you're going to get all of the information behind the scenes. You're going to get information prior to podcast release. You're also going to get information on stuff that we're working on that we're just not sharing with the general public. So if you want to know more, head over, hit that subscribe button, or at least take advantage of the free downloads that we have on the website. So let's get back to the conversation.
When it comes to your lead approaches, where's the majority of your business coming from? Architects, referrals, cold calls, advertising, social media, etc. This is actually interesting that they asked this because I've been spending a lot of time recently focusing on lead gen and what makes successful lead gen program for your business. And I realized this when I was out at Andersen last week. I was speaking about being a value-based contractor rather than price-driven or a more competitive contractor. And most of the people were curious just how do you create that funnel? How do you create and substantiate the lead gens that you need as a business to support that model? And for me, it's been super organic. It's been 14 years of building that client base and being devoted to the work that I'm doing. But I realized there has to be a better way for people who are just starting out. There had to be a better way for myself. So I've been spending a lot of time putting together some notes and information on lead generation for small contractors, for residential builders, as far as what works for me now, what has worked for me in the past, and some cheat codes as far as what you can do to better your lead gen. But all of these are great options. Partnering with architects, partnering with trades. One thing for me is subcontractors. If you have a good relationship with subcontractors who work direct for homeowners, they're like my plumber always gets called for service calls, and they ask, "Hey, like I know you're fixing this now, but we need this to get replaced a year from now. Do you have somebody who you can recommend?" So that's a huge foot in the door for me with a lot of clients when you have the subcontractor base who can speak highly of you. Referrals are great if they are for the type of work and the clients that make your business successful and profitable and sustainable. A lot of times word of mouth referrals dig you deeper into a hole of projects that are not ideal and are not your ideal client. So I think that our industry is based on word of mouth, right? You don't have to, it's the good old boys never advertise. It was always word of mouth. We never paid $1 in the paper to advertise, but it's like, you're only going to get more of the work that you've gotten. So if you get slow and you take a job that you don't want, then the 10 next leads that come from that client are going to be clients that don't really fit your ideal client avatar. So that to me is a slippery slope. There's all sorts of options as far as social media marketing, content strategy, identifying your ideal client, and then paid advertising for your business based on what your type of work is, what your market is, whether it's Facebook, Instagram. There's so many opportunities there. And even if it's not paid advertising, like your marketing and content strategy on these social platforms can really create a robust lead generation for you, not only just as far as volume and numbers goes, but as far as generating the leads for that ideal client. So this is something that I'm actually going to dig into a lot more, and we're going to talk a lot more about. So that's just some quick thoughts on this question and what this person's asking. But these are all great options. Making yourself visible within your community is a great way. It holds you accountable, and when you are accountable within your community, you establish that trust, and people are more likely to refer you to people that they know. There's a ton of ways to do this as a small business.
Yeah, I mean, I think for a long time we were primarily getting lead flow from social media. That's where most of our effort was going. I think the important part of the question that he missed was qualified leads. Lead flow is great, but qualified leads is what you're looking for. And Tyler hit on a lot of key points. I'll just expand on that is, for me, forever, it was only word of mouth, social media. And we got a ton of inquiries and a ton of leads through social media. And I chased those, and a lot of them converted to clients. And I find that as we continue to grow as a business and continue to become more and more legitimate, I'll say, and kind of a premium in the space, we're competing kind of at the top of the price point, et cetera. Social media it doesn't really cut it. But it's not just one other thing for me. It's, the multiple touch points from a marketing perspective. We are doing some print ad. We are showing up to the events. I am cold calling. I am cold outreaching, emailing, inviting myself to their studio, to their office, inviting them to tour one of our projects, and just constantly in this, building this momentum of networking and talking to people and understanding, who is in the space that, who's playing in the space that I want to be playing in, and finding out the who those people are and talking to them and providing them value, and ultimately, looking to kind of tap into the multitude of networks and the multitude of opportunities that kind of exist in all those different spaces. So for lead flow now, we're kind of doing it all in terms of marketing, and we're looking at it as we want to position ourselves to be the most valuable builder and offer our unique experience in, and we talked about it in our pre-construction course, like the unique sales proposition. Like that is something that is really important, and understanding what makes you unique. I think I struggled with that question a lot early on, only to realize that, it doesn't have to be this overly complex understanding or explanation of what you do, but there's something unique about what you do and or how you do it that ultimately is what is the deciding factor for someone that is going to build or renovate or work with you.
Yeah, and I think that knowing that about yourself and creating your content, your marketing plan around that is critical for success, critical for generating high quality leads, understanding how to funnel those leads, and understanding how to intake those leads. So that's a great question. I have actually a bunch more questions on lead gen that we're not going to get to, but I think that it probably would be ideal for Nick and myself to hop on and record another podcast, or possibly even have another webinar on lead gen to dig into this, because it's not anything that I considered for a long time, because it was such a slow transition to needing to generate ideal leads for my business, right? It went from taking anything I could get to trying to figure out what jobs were profitable for me, to a point where it's like I can't not take jobs other than these type of jobs. So it was a very natural progression for me, but I would love to be able to create um, an entire system or an entire process for you guys to be able to implement proper lead gen, and where you should focus your time and your effort, your resources, if you're spending money on that. um, so that's something that I've been working on the back end that I want to dig into a little bit more deeply, because it's not anything that I focused on for a long time, and it wasn't until speaking to contractors outside of my area, speaking to contractors who are in other industries, whether they are building homes, whether they're subcontractors, specialty contractors, where as things slow down, they're wondering, how do you generate these leads? What's the best path to take? What's the most valuable? How do we keep our clients top of mind? What's the follow up process? How are you nurturing your leads? Um, what are your biggest challenges with lead generation? What are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned from starting your business until now? How do you attract new clients? How do you stay top of mind with your existing clients? There's so many questions that I get around lead gen, and I realize, like, this is huge for a lot of people. Like, leads are the lifeblood of your business. They are critical for the success of your business. They're critical for staying booked out to prevent becoming hungry and then conceding on projects that are not ideal for you. They're not your ideal client, which not only hurts you in the immediacy, but affects you 2, 3 jobs down the road because of those referrals and everything else. So I want to dig into lead gen a lot more. That's something that I've been focusing a lot on, and paying special attention to, and seeing what works for other people, because lead gen can be one of those aspects of your business that truly changes it. If you find a way within your market and within your business to create proper lead gen that supports everything that you're doing, it's going to lock you in on the projects, but also all of the projects down the pipeline, and you're going to be attracting more of those type of projects, more of those type of clients, and only further your success, and set yourself on a trajectory that aligns with everything that makes your business successful. So lead gen is important. There's so much to dig into with lead gen. I'm going to be doing that shortly. But we appreciate taking a quick podcast here to dig into some questions with us. Um, there's more to get to. There's more on the top of our minds right now, but I did want to get to these questions immediately. If you need anything from Nick, from myself, if you have any questions, you can reach out to us through the Modern Craftsman. There's a contact page on the website. You can shoot me an email, tyler@trghomeconcepts.com. Shoot us a DM. Any way that works for you, reach out to us with questions. If you have more questions that you want us to cover, reach out, let us know. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate everyone who's supported us from day one. And I hope that you all have a great week. We have a huge, huge guest next week, a return guest, one of our all-time most downloaded, most listened to guests. And I am so excited to get them back on. Somebody I've looked up to forever, somebody who's just done great things for the industry. So make sure that you tune in next week to see who we have on. All right, guys and girls, I appreciate you hanging around, and we'll catch you next week.